Dad, 62M, refuses to spend Christmas with BIL, 28M, and Mom, 60F, blames my wife, 36F. This is a throwaway account since I have coworkers on my main profile, and I'd rather they not get wind of my family drama. Apologies if my spelling is off. I'm absolutely fuming as I write this. Obligatory note: all names have been changed. To give you some background, I'm 36F and married to the love of my life, Emma, who is also 36. We met as teenagers at 17, but back then, I was still in the closet while she was confidently out. Because of this, we didn't start dating until I came out at 21. Fast forward to 2019, and we tied the knot. Together, we've adopted a wonderful 4-year-old son named Nick, and he's the light of our lives. This will be important later. Now, let's talk about my sister, Anna, 27F, and her long-term boyfriend, Max, 28M. They've been together for 8 years, but the whole family has never warmed up to him. In fact, hated might be a better word for how most of us feel. Max has this grating personality. He's rude, arrogant, and obnoxious. He hides behind the excuse of being brutally honest, but the moment anyone mirrors that honesty back to him, he sulks like a child. Honestly, my toddler has better manners. To his credit, Max treats Anna well and isn't abusive toward her. That's the one redeeming thing about him. But when it comes to the rest of the family, he's insufferable. My dad and Emma especially can't stand him and do their best to avoid him during gatherings. Emma typically brushes off his comments, avoiding conflict when she can, but there have been moments where she's responded, usually with witty comebacks that leave everyone but Max in stitches. My mom, being the peacemaker of the family, usually steers the conversation away from conflict. However, even she can't stand him. Anna, for reasons beyond us, is the only one who doesn't share this sentiment. Adding to this dynamic is our son's story. Nick's birth mother, Meg, was Emma's best friend. Tragically, Meg passed away in 2021 from an undiagnosed heart condition. One night, she went to bed and simply never woke up. Emma found Meg in her bed and Nick, just a baby at the time, in his crib, screaming.
It was devastating.
Since none of Meg's relatives could take Nick in, we adopted him. He knows who Meg was and understands that she's no longer with us, but it remains a sensitive subject for Emma. Now, let's get to what happened last weekend. Saturday marked the anniversary of Meg's passing, so Emma, Nick, and I visited her grave to pay our respects. This time of year is always tough for Emma, and after these visits, she tends to be quieter than usual. On Sunday, we had one of our regular family gatherings at my parents' house, a casual get-together we do every couple of months. At first, things were normal. Emma and my dad naturally gravitated toward each other for a chat. I could see Emma was struggling a bit, so my dad took her out for a short walk to clear her head. This wasn't out of the ordinary. They've done it before. However, Max seemed to take offense, asking why he wasn't invited to join them. I explained about the anniversary of Meg's death and how Emma needed some space. Instead of understanding, Max dismissed it, saying Emma should have gotten over it by now. At this point, my usually quiet granddad spoke up, sharing that even 20 years after his best friend's death, he still has moments where the pain feels fresh. "You don't just get over something like that," he said firmly. That shut Max up, at least for the moment. Emma and my dad returned, and Emma seemed to be in better spirits. We all sat down for lunch, and things seemed fine, until Max started interrupting Emma's conversation with my granddad. When it became clear that they weren't including him, he loudly declared, "This is bullshit. She's getting all this attention because her friend died 3 years ago. Get over it already. We're all sick of hearing about it." The room went silent. I looked at Emma, expecting her to blow up at him, but instead, she stayed calm. Her response was brutal yet measured. Granddad and I weren't even talking about Meg. We were planning a trip to the Christmas markets. But if you want to act like a jerk, fine. Let's address this. Then she unleashed. "Everyone in this family hates you, Max. You're a toxic, narcissistic nightmare. Whenever you're not at a gathering, the atmosphere is noticeably better. Do you know why you have no friends and why your own family can't stand to be around you? It's because you're rotten inside. Meg was only on this earth for 32 years, but in that time, she touched more lives and made more of a positive impact than you ever will, even if you live to be 150. Her funeral was packed with people who loved her. You'd be lucky if anyone other than Anna showed up at yours. With that, she walked out into the garden. I followed to check on her, and a few minutes later, my dad came out to tell us he'd asked Max and Anna to leave. Back inside, Emma apologized to the family, saying she should have kept her cool. Everyone except my mom assured her she was right, and that it was about time someone put Max in his place. My dad even joked, "Leave it to a lesbian to tell him straight," which lightened the mood. The rest of the day went smoothly. Later, we picked up Nick from Emma's mom's house, where he'd spent the night. The fallout came the next day. Anna called, demanding an apology from Emma. She said they wouldn't attend Christmas if Emma didn't apologize. I reminded her that we weren't planning to spend Christmas with my side of the family anyway, as it's our year to be with Emma's mom. This didn't sit well with Anna, and she hung up on me. Then today, my dad called to say he's refusing to spend Christmas with Max. He asked if he and my granddad could join us at Emma's mom's house instead. I texted Emma's mom, who welcomed them with open arms. Now, my mom is furious, claiming my dad and Emma are tearing the family apart. Emma offered to apologize to keep the peace, but I told her absolutely not. She was right to say what she did. Still, the situation feels like an impossible mess. How do we move forward from here? Is there any way to make family gatherings tolerable with someone like Max around? I know updates are appreciated here, so I thought I'd share what's been going on. Things are finally starting to settle, though not perfectly. After I made my last post, a series of events unfolded over the next few hours. First, I spoke with my grandparents on my mom's side. They were present when everything blew up, but like my mom, they always try to keep the peace. Honestly, that's where she gets it from. They're all about avoiding conflict. They had originally planned to spend Christmas with my mom this year, but they changed their minds and decided to visit my uncle instead. They've decided not to be around Max either, saying he causes too much drama. When they asked if they could stop by to see us and Nick on the 23rd before heading to my uncle's, I was happy to agree. It caught me off guard and outright stunned my mom because my grandparents are the most take the high road people you'll ever meet. But even they'd reached their limit with Max. Then my dad called to update me. Max and Anna had apparently decided they wanted Emma to issue a public apology in front of the whole family, admitting she was lying and proclaiming the family's love for Max. My dad laughed as he told me, calling them delusional. So, any chance of a superficial apology from them flew straight out the window. To top it all off, Nick came home from his after-school club with a recorder. Let me just say, I was sorely tempted to shove that thing where the sun doesn't shine. It wasn't a great day. Talking to people here helped me realize something else. Max has been actively trying to push Emma and me out of the family. He's planned trips he knows we couldn't attend. Not that we would have wanted to. Spending a weekend with him sounds about as appealing as a root canal. He's also consistently tried to separate my dad from Emma whenever we're all together. It's likely jealousy. Emma and my dad are incredibly close. They go to classic car shows several times a year with my grandpa. I think Max can't stand seeing that bond. Things stayed quiet for a few days until the weekend. Our town hosts a big Christmas fair that runs through November and December. It's a tradition for us to attend with my mom, dad, grandpa, and Emma's mom. To cheer my mom up, we decided to go last Sunday and planned to have dinner afterward. We made it clear that if Anna or Max showed up, we'd all leave, and my mom promised they wouldn't be there. At first, the outing was a little awkward, but the atmosphere eventually lightened. At one point, Nick convinced my mom and dad to take him on the giant snow slide. When my mom returned to us, she had tears in her eyes. I pulled her aside to ask what was wrong. She explained that while they were waiting in line, Nick had said he was happy Uncle Max wasn't there. When she asked why, he replied that Uncle Max was a bad man. She tried to assure him otherwise, but in true stubborn 4-year-old fashion, Nick argued that people who say mean things all the time are bad people. Uncle Max, he insisted, said mean things all the time. It turns out Nick had learned this in school during a lesson on bullying, which had been prompted by an incident in his class. Hearing this from Nick seemed to finally break through to my mom. If even a child can see how awful Max is, she couldn't ignore it any longer. She admitted she felt torn. She despises Max and agrees with everything Emma has said about him, but she loves Anna and doesn't want to push her away. I told her I'd always be there for her, but I wouldn't put myself, Nick, or Emma through being around Max again. I encouraged her to think about what she truly wants, not what anyone else expects. Later, Emma's mom quietly told my mom she was welcome to join us for Christmas, even if she decided at the last minute. She promised to save her a plate. Afterward, I noticed the two of them having a deep conversation while walking behind us. They wouldn't share the details, but my mom seemed more at ease. Since then, they've been talking more, and my mom told me she'd be spending Christmas with Emma's mom. Predictably, when my mom told Anna, it didn't go over well. Anna accused her of choosing us over her. My mom responded that she was choosing to have a peaceful Christmas rather than endure Max's constant negativity. That's when Anna called me. She asked if I was happy that I'd won. Then, she crossed an unforgivable line. She used several homophobic slurs against Emma and me, and even called Nick the bastard of a whore. I ended the call immediately, blocked her everywhere, and told my family what had happened. Everyone was horrified. My grandmother called Anna to say she was dead to her. She wouldn't tolerate a bigot in the family. Anna has since tried to apologize, but I keep blocking the fake accounts she's making. Max tried calling my dad to smooth things over, claiming Anna had been angry and didn't mean it. My dad wasn't having it. He told Max he was the worst thing that had ever happened to Anna and our family. He also told her he'd support her if she left Max, but until then, she's on her own. My mom has gone low contact, leaving the door open for reconciliation someday, but only if Anna changes. Some people have suggested that Max might be abusive toward Anna, but I don't think that's the case. He thrives on attention, and his behavior is all about stirring up drama. Anna enables him because she enjoys watching the rest of us squirm. So now, everyone's angry: my mom, dad, grandparents, and extended family. Emma has been my rock through all this, though I can tell she's furious about what Anna said regarding Nick. I'm just exhausted and sad. At least now I know what Anna really thinks of us. This Christmas will be different, better in some ways. For the first time, we'll have both sides of the family together without worrying about Max's antics. Still, I can't help but feel heartbroken about how things have turned out with my sister. The only bright spots have been Emma and Nick's silly attempts to cheer me up. That recorder, though, is another story. Whoever invented that thing, I hope they stub their toe every day for the rest of their life. Thank you for the support in my original post. You've opened my eyes to so much. Maybe internet strangers really are the best source of advice sometimes. Wishing you all a peaceful holiday season. Now on to the next story, story 2. AITA for asking my sister not to bring her homemade food to Thanksgiving because her cooking ruins the meal. Thanksgiving has always been a big deal in my family. Every year, we gather for a large dinner, with everyone pitching in by bringing a dish or two. It's a tradition we all look forward to. The problem? My sister, while wonderful in every other way, has a talent for turning classic dishes into what can only be described as culinary disasters. Let me explain. Last year, she proudly presented her special recipe, stuffing. At first glance, it looked fine. But then we discovered she had seasoned it with cinnamon and cardamom, spices that don't exactly scream Thanksgiving stuffing. The result was dry, overly spiced, and had a flavor profile that confused everyone. Out of politeness, one person took a small bite, but the rest of it sat untouched for the entire meal. The year before, she brought a green bean casserole. It was something else. Instead of the usual creamy, comforting dish, hers had an odd, chewy texture. Later, she revealed she had replaced the cream with coconut milk and used almond flour instead of a traditional thickener, apparently as part of some experiment. Unsurprisingly, no one asked for seconds. This year, I'm hosting Thanksgiving, and since I'm taking on the responsibility of coordinating the whole meal, I decided to keep things simple and cohesive. To avoid any issues, I suggested that my sister contribute in a different way. I kindly asked her to bring non-food items like wine, soda, or maybe even some flowers to decorate the table. I thought this was a reasonable compromise, but it didn't go over well. She took offense immediately, claiming I was being controlling and excluding her from the family gathering. She said I was making her feel inadequate and argued that Thanksgiving is supposed to be about everyone contributing, not me deciding what's acceptable. I tried to explain that it wasn't about her efforts not being appreciated, but rather about ensuring everyone could enjoy the meal. I reassured her that she was still a valuable part of the day, just in a different way this year. Despite my efforts to smooth things over, she stood her ground and even announced she would bring her famous green bean casserole anyway, whether I liked it or not. Now, things have escalated. My mom and a couple of other relatives have weighed in, telling me to just let her bring whatever she wants because it's Thanksgiving and the thought counts more than the taste. According to them, I'm making this a bigger deal than it needs to be, and I should let her contribute as she sees fit. But here's the thing. I'm the one hosting, and I want the food to actually be enjoyable for everyone. Preparing a Thanksgiving meal is a lot of work, and I don't think it's unreasonable to want the dishes to complement each other, rather than having random experiments that no one touches. If the thought is what counts, wouldn't it make sense to contribute something people actually appreciate? Am I wrong for wanting the meal to be consistent and enjoyable, or is this just a case of me being overly controlling? Ida? Update. Thanksgiving drama intensifies. Help. Well, things have definitely taken a turn. First, I want to thank everyone who shared their advice. I genuinely tried to find a middle ground, but this situation has spiraled faster than I ever could have imagined. And the kicker? We're still weeks away from Thanksgiving. After my initial conversation with my sister, she started acting evasive whenever the topic of Thanksgiving came up. Her vague responses made me uneasy, so I decided to loop in my mom, hoping she could help mediate. Big mistake. Instead of helping, my mom brushed off my concerns, insisting I was overthinking it and that it's just one dish. But here's the thing, I had already heard whispers that it wasn't going to be just one dish. A mutual friend casually mentioned that my sister's recent grocery haul included canned oysters and something labeled as edible glitter. Yes, you read that right, edible glitter. That alone had me on edge. But then my mom let slip that my sister has been working really hard on what she's calling a creative Thanksgiving surprise. Apparently, she's been sharing her plans in our family group chat, a conversation I was conveniently excluded from. In this chat, she's been painting me as the controlling sibling while hyping up her mission to expand everyone's palate with her truly unique dishes. My cousin, who must have taken pity on me, sent a screenshot that revealed my sister's grand plan. She's now preparing not one, but 3 dishes for Thanksgiving. She's calling it her Thanksgiving trio experience. And if that wasn't enough to make me break into a cold sweat, she's also designing little personalized menu cards and place settings for her dishes. I have no idea what's on this so-called trio menu, but judging by the edible glitter and canned oysters, it's unlikely to resemble anything remotely traditional. The family is now divided into 2 camps. Half of them think I'm being uptight and overly critical. Their stance is, it's Thanksgiving, let everyone do their thing. The other half is blowing up my phone with texts like, wait, is she seriously making glitter-covered sweet potatoes? Or what's a Thanksgiving trio experience supposed to even be? At this point, I'm feeling completely trapped. If I push back any harder, I'm the villain ruining the spirit of Thanksgiving. But if I don't, there's a very real chance my meticulously planned meal will be overshadowed by my sister's avant-garde creations. I've worked so hard to organize a cohesive, enjoyable dinner, and now it feels like I'm hosting an experimental food festival instead. So here I am, weeks out, already bracing myself for the chaos. Honestly, I'm tempted to preemptively order a stack of pizzas just to have something edible on standby. Who knows? Maybe I'll even set up a side table labeled Traditional Thanksgiving for the rest of us. Send help, and maybe a recipe for glitter-free stuffing. Thanksgiving is now just over 2 weeks away, and somehow, the situation has managed to escalate even further than I could have imagined. When my sister announced her Thanksgiving trio experience, I thought that would be the peak of the drama. Turns out, I was completely wrong. In the time since my last update, my sister has fully leaned into her role as the self-proclaimed star of this year's holiday meal. According to the family group chat, which I'm still not included in, thank you, cousin, for keeping me in the loop. She's been hyping this Thanksgiving as one to remember. She's even dubbed it her Thanksgiving debut, which sounds like she's auditioning for a reality cooking show. What's more, she's apparently referring to herself as the Thanksgiving head chef and has teased that she's preparing a culinary surprise centerpiece that will redefine the whole experience. I have no idea what this centerpiece could be, but if her past creations are any indication, it's probably something unconventional and potentially horrifying. Here's the kicker. She's not stopping at her 3 side dishes. From what I've gathered, she's decided to add a statement dish to her lineup. That's right, she's planning a main course to go with her trio of experimental sides. The idea of her making something centerpiece-worthy fills me with dread. If her infamous green bean casserole was already out there, what could she possibly think is worthy of taking center stage? As if that weren't enough, my mom decided to chime in with her own suggestion. She sent me a private text, gently advising me to step back this year and let your sister shine. According to her, my sister is so excited about her creations that giving her this moment might make her happy and help her get it out of her system. But it didn't stop there. My mom went on to suggest that I focus on decorations and drinks instead of the food. The implication was clear. She thinks I should hand over hosting duties to my sister without actually saying it outright. That felt like a gut punch, considering how much effort I've already put into planning a cohesive and enjoyable Thanksgiving meal for everyone. Now I feel like I'm stuck between 2 impossible choices. If I go along with my mom's plan, my sister effectively hijacks Thanksgiving, and I have no control over what's served. On the other hand, if I stand my ground, I risk igniting a full-blown family feud. All I wanted was a traditional Thanksgiving dinner where people could sit down, enjoy their favorite dishes, and leave with happy memories, not a circus sideshow starring my sister and her edible glitter experiments. Part of me is tempted to let the whole thing play out and see what chaos unfolds. But another part of me feels guilty about subjecting the rest of the family to whatever artistic statement my sister has in store. Thanksgiving hasn't even arrived yet, and I'm already exhausted. At this point, I might just stock up on takeout menus and brace myself for whatever disaster is waiting around the corner. Thanksgiving dinner has officially wrapped up, and I honestly don't even know where to begin. It feels like I've just gone through a whirlwind of culinary disaster and family drama, and I need a minute to breathe before I can start making sense of it all. My cousin and I are heading out for drinks to process everything because, truth be told, what just happened could easily be the plot of a Netflix special. I'll share photos later when I get home, but for now, let me attempt to break it all down for you. So, my sister showed up earlier than expected, something I probably should have anticipated. She stormed in, carrying not only her 3 dishes but also a giant platter wrapped in foil, which she was clearly trying to turn into a big production. Without wasting any time, she started rearranging the table, shoving my dishes aside so hers could take center stage. She even brought her own table runner and candles, claiming it was all part of setting the mood for a creative dining experience. At that point, I didn't want to argue. So I decided to let her have her moment and hoped the night would stay relatively drama-free. Her so-called trio experience was, well, everything I feared, and then some. She kicked things off with a glittery sweet potato mash that somehow managed to taste like a bizarre combination of sugar and sand. The glitter, mind you, wasn't edible. No, it was actual craft glitter, which I didn't realize until one of the kids casually remarked, "This is crunchy," and I took a closer look. Next up was her cranberry and oyster relish. Yes, oysters and cranberries. The dish looked like someone accidentally spilled jam into clam chowder, and the smell alone was enough to completely ruin my appetite. Finally, she presented a pumpkin curry casserole with raisins for some inexplicable reason, and a peculiar fishy odor that lingered in the air far longer than it should have. But the real showstopper, the piece de resistance, was her surprise centerpiece dish. Drum roll, please. It was a turkey gelatin mold. Yes, you read that right. She took ground turkey, mixed it with broth and spices, and molded it into a wobbly, translucent shape of a turkey. To make it look festive, She garnished it with parsley and cherry tomatoes. I wish I were making this up. The whole table went silent when she unveiled it, except for my cousin, who couldn't hide his cough, which I'm pretty sure was him trying not to laugh. The situation hit its peak when my mom, who had been defending my sister throughout the night, took a bite of the gelatin mold and just froze. She didn't say a word, but her expression said it all: regret, disappointment, and a growing sense of dread. My sister, noticing the lack of enthusiasm, then launched into a lengthy speech about how Thanksgiving food is too boring and how she's trying to challenge our palates. She even went so far as to call my ham and mashed potatoes uninspired, which was rich coming from someone who had just served glitter-infused sweet potatoes. The breaking point came when my aunt, who is usually the family's peacekeeper, took a bite of the gelatin mold and immediately gagged. She tried to be polite about it, but my sister noticed and completely lost it. She started yelling about how nobody in the family supports her and how we're all stuck in the past with our unoriginal food. She even accused me of sabotaging her dishes by not hyping them up enough to the rest of the family. At this point, half the table was trying desperately not to laugh, while the other half just stared blankly at their plates, probably wondering how in the world we got to this point. In a dramatic exit, my sister stormed out of the house, not before saying something along the lines of, "You'll regret not appreciating my vision when I'm famous." She left behind most of her food, which my cousin and I quietly discarded after dinner. Once the tension had died down, the rest of the night actually turned out quite nice. My dad's emergency ham was a lifesaver, and by the end of the evening, everyone agreed that next year, we're either dining at a restaurant or skipping Thanksgiving altogether. So here I am, reflecting on how my life got to this point. I'll be posting photos later because, trust me, you need to see the turkey gelatin mold to believe it. But for now, I'm off to meet my cousin for drinks to either laugh or cry over everything that went down. This Thanksgiving was truly one for the books, and I can't decide whether to feel relieved it's over or start bracing myself for whatever fresh chaos my sister has planned for next year.